Welcome to the 12 Report with me, Blessings Mosugu, and these are the headlines. Troops across suspected kidnapping kingpin in Wukari, southern Taraba, as part of ongoing anti-terror operations. Gunmen suspected to be bandits invade community in Tsanyawa, Kano state, abducting several residents. Opposition and incumbent candidates both declare themselves winners in Guinea-Bissau ahead of official release of election results. As usual, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country. Emmanuel Bagudu in Kano State and Sagir Ibrahim joining from the FCT. We've got the details in a moment. Now we start with security troops of the 6th Brigade Nigerian Army, Sector 3 Operation Whale Stroke, have recorded another major success under Operation Zafin Wuta. Now on 23rd November 2025, soldiers arrested a suspected kidnap kingpin, Alhaji Abubakar Bawa, while he attempted to flee Wukari in southern Taraba. Bawa is believed to be a close associate of Umar Musa, another notorious kidnapping mastermind captured a day earlier. The army says both suspects are linked to a wider criminal network behind multiple kidnappings and violent attacks in the region. Brigade Commander Brigadier General Kingsley Uwa praised the troops, saying the operation is effectively dismantling criminal syndicates. He urged residents to remain vigilant and support ongoing security efforts. The suspect is now in custody. In the meantime, with the security situation across Nigeria continuing to degenerate, some members of the House of Representatives have called for the decentralization of the nation's police force and the need to put deliberate measures to address the current insecurity crisis. Following a special session presided by the Speaker of the House of Representatives on the rising insecurity challenges across the nation, lawmakers reviewed the scale of recent attacks and proposed urgent legislative measures aimed at strengthening national response. Our correspondent Idong Joseph reports.
In a solemn session, lawmakers said the nation is confronted with what could be described as one of the most challenging moments in recent years. Killings, coordinated attacks, and targeted abductions across several states.
The decision of this House to suspend all other matters to focus on national security is therefore neither symbolic nor procedural. It reflects the seriousness of the moment.
The Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, in his opening remarks, says that his visit to Kebbi State, where school children were kidnapped, shows deliberate attempts by terror groups to destabilize and incite fear in the hearts and minds of residents, but urged citizens not to be afraid.
They aim to create the impression that violent groups can act without restraint. They focus on soft and vulnerable targets.
After observing a minute's silence for those killed during several attacks, the House leader gave an update of security situation and efforts by the government to address them.
The Lake Chad Basin and Sambisa Forest remain launching pads for sporadic attacks and criminal activity. In the southeast, quickly, separatist unrest, criminality, and weaponization for legitimate agitations.
Principal officers also raised concerns, saying that the challenges range from porous nature of the nation's border, the tradition of negotiating with bandits, and payment of ransom. They called for the creation of National Border Force, emphasized the need for community policing, and improved funding for the police force.
We want to do everything to displace the opponent, to make the entire government ungovernable. Bring in people from outside the shores of this country because our borders are porous. We only have boundaries on the map.
The practice continues because it is alleged that government entities negotiate with bandits and pay ransom.
Representatives from the southern region blame community members for some of the attacks.
People driving Chaba or Kada, whatever name you may call it in your own area, that gives information to the kidnappers.
With all presentations focused on the challenges and possible solutions to the current crisis, the session will continue with all lawmakers giving situation reports on what is transpiring in their constituency. In Abuja for News Central, Idonk Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mr.
The Kano State Police Command has confirmed the abduction of some residents of Tsanyawa local government area of Kano State. This is as gunmen suspected to be terrorists invaded communities within the local government, which borders Katsina State. Police spokesperson Haruna Kiyawa, who confirmed the incident to News Central, did not give the exact number of abductees, as he said the police are still compiling the details to assert the figure. The attacks occurred in villages bordering Katsina State, an area increasingly targeted by armed groups operating along the boundary between both states. And now our correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu joins us live from Tsanyawa local government area, the scene of the attack. So Emmanuel, you have been able to get a confirmation of the Tsanyawa attack. What is the situation there now? Is there a certain kind of fear in the people? How are they dealing with this?
The residents are still, feeling sad. Of course, they are still searching for their loved ones. What they are saying, I'm standing right now at the center of Tsanyawa local government, at the headquarters of Tsanyawa local government, and by my right is the community, which I will soon, go into to see the victims. But for now, those that I've managed to speak with, who are actually trying to give me access to the community, are saying that the numbers can be above 20. Those that have been so far been missing after the attack. But the police have not really opened up to say how many people have been missing or how many people have been abducted. And of course, this is coming just a few days after the Emir of Kano visited the scenes, the border communities. Of course, the police there, we saw the police commissioner, inspecting those border communities. We are also seeing the GOC coming to that place. And of course, we've seen donations, 50 motorcycles, 10 patrol vehicles given to soldiers to address the issue. But this is happening, just 48 hours ago. So it's a matter of police trying to, take stock, go into the community and then ascertain how many people are actually missing or abducted before they can actually give a right figure. But the people claim that so far they have not seen up to 20 people in their community. Yeah.
You have said that the police are yet to ascertain the number of those kidnapped, according to them. But what are they saying about rescue efforts?
Yes, there's a general statement by the police spokesperson, Haruna Kiyawa, this morning. He sent that voice notes to all journalists, of course, in Hausa. It was really broadcasted around the state. He's saying that officially he has on record that terrorists, he has gotten the report on the 10th, which is yesterday, that terrorists have also invaded, the state. According to his words, he said terrorists have invaded the state from neighboring states. That's a statement. And of course, the statement was the fact that they are making effort to actually ascertain the damage and then try to track where, those who have been abducted are. That's so far the effort the police say they are making, but they have not really, come out clear to tell us whether they are going to, get involved in an immediate, rescue operation. Yeah.
So, Emmanuel, let's go back to a week ago where the Kano State government donated vehicles to the army and has also been meeting other security agencies. Does that mean that these interventions are recording no results so far?
Yes, that's a big question. The state government have to answer. A big question the military who have received those vehicles have to answer. A big question the police also have to answer, because they have claimed they have gone through all those border communities for inspection. So accountability is just the key word here. They have to answer those questions, because these activities happened just within the space of 2 weeks. And just 48 hours ago, we are seeing this happening. So the question is open to them. Of course, they have to give, the people answers as to why, these issues have not been living in the board for a very long time, because the Emir of Kano categorically makes it clear during his visit to those communities that he's going to engage the Emir of Katsina, that the governor has already, made plans to engage the governor of Katsina, and that he's writing a letter to the Emir of Katsina. That's what he says in his statement, in his words. And their community members are believing that this is getting slow, and the government has to answer that big question. Thank you.
All right, Emmanuel Bagudu, thank you for bringing us the update. That is Emmanuel talking about the attacks in Tsanyawa in Kano State. And based on the reports that we have, they're yet to ascertain the number of those who have been kidnapped. But efforts are ongoing, and we're hoping that it yields positive results very soon. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, is calling for strict penalties against government officials who negotiate ransom payments with kidnappers. Speaking during a special national security session at the House on Tuesday, Kalu said the proposed measure will form part of a legislative agenda to be introduced within the next 6 months. He argued that banning ransom negotiations and unstructured amnesty deals is essential to breaking the cycle of banditry across the country. According to him, the plan includes criminal sanctions for any public official who engages in ransom talks or approves informal amnesty arrangements. Kalu's comments follow a surge in nationwide abductions, including recent attacks on schools and places of worship. Now, a recently circulated video said to feature the bandits behind the November 17 Kebbi school abductions seems to suggest there may have been some form of negotiation before the girls' release, a claim that differs from the government's position. Now, the clip shared online on Tuesday shows armed kidnappers questioning the schoolgirls about military aircraft that flew over the forest during their captivity. The bandits boast that the government could not rescue the students by force and had to negotiate, stating plainly, "We're letting you go after negotiations. Your government has failed." The footage emerged shortly after Governor Nasir Idris and Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawalle announced the release of all abducted students. Now, officials say the girls will be reunited with their parents today. Thanks for staying with us. We're still talking security, or the lack of it thereof. Northern governors will hold an emergency security meeting in Kaduna on the 29th of November as violence and kidnappings continue to escalate across the region. The announcement was made by Peter Ahemba, aide to Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule, who said the gathering aims to form a unified strategy against growing security threats. Traditional rulers are also expected to attend. Now, recent weeks have seen multiple attacks, including the abduction of 25 female students in Kebbi, the killing of Brigadier General Musa Uba in Borno, and the kidnapping of more than 300 students and teachers in Niger State. President Bola Tinubu cancelled his trip to South Africa due to the rising insecurity, though all 38 abducted Kwara worshippers have now been released. And let's move slightly away from that. There was mild drama during a committee hearing at the National Assembly after Bayelsa West lawmaker Seriake Dixon walked out of a sitting of the Senate Committee on Local Content during an investigative hearing. The committee is probing a publication alleging the diversion of $14.8 million involving former Minister of State for Petroleum, Timipre Silva, with the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, who were summoned to provide clarifications. The drama began when Senator Dixon accused the panel of conducting what he described as a selective inquiry targeted at Silva. Following the exchange, the committee resolved to re-summon the NCDMB Executive Secretary and his management team to provide further explanations at a later date.
If the subject matter of this meeting is about that one transaction, in view of the fact that the person alleged to be involved, even though it's of another political tendency, with me, against me, we've been like this for all these years. We don't even talk. But by my standards, as a leader from the state, I will recuse myself. I will recuse myself. One, so that other agencies who are handling those things can do it, and whatever this committee may want to do in aid or in support or in addition, committee can do so. But my preferred approach would have been an inquiry as to the totality of what is going on. It's something that we need to do. We also agree that we are just trying to find out, have a knowledge of what happened. We are not saying whether there's anything that has happened there that is criminal or suspicious or whatever. I just have an idea of what has happened in that place to keep the committee abreast. We also agree that, like other colleagues have just said, see, this is the first time we can give him another opportunity to appear.
All right, our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, now joins me to give an update on this. Sagir Ibrahim, what was the senator's main reason for staging a walkout during the meeting?
Blessings for Senator Seriake Dickson. It is a matter of fairness, and he didn't feel like that was being given to the former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Tunisian Silva. He had made it clear that the line of questioning of members of the committee did not look like it was indeed trying to investigate what really went wrong. Remember, this is a case of mismanagement of around $35 million. This investigation was actually started by the House Committee on Downstream and Midstream. The Senate Committee here is also trying to do its due diligence, especially following the fact that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, had earlier in November declared the former minister, Tunisian Silva, wanted over alleged dishonest conversion of around $14.5 million. Now, these allegations and investigation has also named the NCDMB, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, as well. However, Senator Seriake Dickson feels like the questioning and the way it was framed more like focused on Tunisian Silva and looked like it was a case of witch hunt, if you would call it that. So he raised concerns and guided and rather cautioned members of the committee to do right by ensuring that they look at the entire allegation more holistically in order to get the basics and the details of what really transpired.
So looking at the history between the Senator Dickson, and the former Minister Silva, isn't it surprising that the Senator is now standing up for the former minister?
I would even call this a classic case of the coming together of strange bedfellows. I call it this because their political history is very well known. These guys have contested in governorship election against each other, one against the other person, the other against the earlier person. They've been in opposite political party for the longest times. I would not call them political foes, but then again, they've been at opposite side of the divide, having different ideologies. So it really is surprising to see a Seriake Dickson stand up for a Tunisian Silva in the Senate investigative hearing. But then again, it really brings to fore, while it is important to play healthy politics, it doesn't matter what side of the political divide you are. When it comes to speak for fairness and for justice, it is important that you stand for the truth and by the truth at all times. And I guess this is what the Senator Seriake Dickson, the former governor of Bayelsa State, was trying to emphasize when he mentioned to the committee. It is important for us to focus on the issues. Let's investigate with an intention of getting an understanding of what really transpired, rather than making the conversation look like one is trying to witch hunt another person, or it's a direct targeted attempt to discredit another individual in this question, whether the individual is a member of my party, whether we are friends or not. He even mentioned we don't even speak. But then again, it does not stop me from speaking up for this man, even in his absence. That's what's so interesting about the entire conversation. Blessings.
All right, thank you so much, Sagir Ibrahim, for bringing us the update on the NCDMB probe fallout. We're still talking security. A governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, met with security chiefs to strengthen security in the state. The security chiefs at the meeting included Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Defense Staff, YD Shaibu, Chief of Army Staff, Kayode Egbetokun, Inspector General of Police, and Tosin Ajayi, Director General of the Department of State Services. Kingsley Fowle, State Commissioner for Information and Communications, said the engagements were quite fruitful, noting that they were geared towards deepening collaboration with national security agencies. Fanwo recalled that Governor Ododo had earlier met with the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. He further commended the President's efforts in enhancing national security and the prompt intervention during the abduction incident in Iruku, Kwara State. A political interest group in the Kogi East Elites Forum has blasted the senator representing Kogi West, Sunday Karimi, over what they tagged as unguided comments during the recently held 2025 Kaba Day celebration. In a statement signed by the spokesperson of the forum, Abubakar Bawa, cautioned Karimi to be mindful of comments threatening the peace and unity of Kogi State. Now, contrary to Senator Karimi's opinion, the Kogi East elites distanced the region from any arrangement with the Okun people, Kogi West, to oust Governor Usman Ododo from office in 2027. The group further urged the people of Kogi State to disregard Karimi's fallacies and that at the same time tagged the senator a deceptive agent. Away from that, President Bola Tinubu has forwarded the Legal Practitioners Bill 2025 to the Senate, seeking sweeping reforms to strengthen regulation and professional standards within Nigeria's legal sector. Rereading the communication during Tuesday's plenary, Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the proposed law aims to replace the existing Legal Practitioners Act with a modern framework that prioritizes public interest, integrity, and ethical conduct in legal practice. The bill proposes key changes, including a legal practitioners disciplinary committee with powers to sanction erring lawyers, a mandatory 2-year pupillage, continuous professional education, and standardized licensing procedures featuring official stamps and seals. And now the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborori, has presented the 2026 budget estimate of 1,664 billion naira to the state's House of Assembly. The budget, named Budget of Accelerating the More Agenda, has a recurrent expenditure pegged at 499 billion naira, while capital expenditure is 1.165 trillion naira. We'll now cross over to News Central's correspondent Austin Azu in Asaba to provide more details on the budget. Austin Azu, thank you for joining us. What is the Delta State budget about? What has been presented? What's the difference between this and the one for last year?
Not just quite long, encapsulated so many things and more emphasis on infrastructure. The difference between 2025 budget and 2026 budget proposal about 600 billion naira. And from what the governor said so far, that a large amount will be committed to infrastructure, and he said over 106 billion naira is committed to infrastructure in terms of health, about 100 health about 50 billion naira, and other infrastructures in the state like Asaba Capital Territory and Wukari development areas, about 20 billion naira each. And besides that as well, the governor equally talked about what the 2025 budget performance looks like, and he gave credence to the internal generated revenue improvement and that of the FAC as well. But the governor is concentrating more on infrastructure in the year 2026 budget, considering what he has done so far in terms of the flyovers in Wukari and environs, the one he has started at Agbo, and the one he has started at the one in Ugele precisely. The governor actually talked more about the security structures in the state. He has been able to collaborate with the security agencies to boost the confidence of residents of the state, and equally allude to the fact that based on this, that the residents of the state will be having a security, more security during the Yuletide season. And of course, he assured the residents of the state of his continuity to ensure that he's able to do more for the residents of the state. So back to you in the studio.
Austin Azu, thank you so much for the update on that. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has presented the 2026 appropriation bill tagged the Budget of Shared Prosperity to the Lagos State House of Assembly. With the economy having the highest share, the governor described the budget as the final full-year spending plan of his administration and a decisive step towards expanding inclusive growth across the state. News Central's Igbalani Omoni reports.
Speaking at the Assembly Complex on Tuesday, Governor Sanwo-Olu reaffirmed his commitment to building a human-centered, well-governed and economically vibrant Lagos. Before reeling out the 2026 budget, he highlighted key gains in 2025 across sectors. The governor noted that the 2026 budget targets shared prosperity for all Lagosians.
This budget is proposed at a total size of 4,307,107,009,308 naira. This budget comprises a total revenue of 3,993,774,554,041, which has only a deficit financing of 243,332,454,000. We also have a total revenue comprising totally internally generated revenue of 3,194,774,551,141 naira.
From the sectoral breakdown, Economic Affairs received the largest allocation, driven by transport infrastructure and job creation plans, followed by general public services, health and education.
The year 2026 appropriation bill, the budget of shared prosperity, is a reaffirmation of our collective belief that Lagos can continue to rise. It should continue to lead and continue to create opportunity for every citizen of Africa's largest preferred megacity. Let me again assure you that we will live up to it, and we'll go beyond it. Your expectations.
This House stand adjourned till Monday, 4th December 2025 at 12 noon prompt.
Sanwo-Olu pledged to complete ongoing projects, boost investment in technology and innovation, expand social protection, modernize governance, and strengthen public safety, stating that the 2026 budget is designed to make Lagos more resilient, prosperous, and globally competitive. In Lagos 4 News Central, Igbelani Omoni.
Stakeholders and thought leaders have converged in Abuja for the 2025 Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development AI Summit. The gathering is focused on homegrown artificial intelligence solutions, innovation and expanding inclusion across Africa's rapidly evolving digital landscape. Our correspondent Joshua Marai is standing by live from the summit. Joshua, this is a journalism and AI summit. What has been the most pivotal conversation that has been had so far?
Seven months ago, the federal minister of technology and economy was inaugurated the AI Collective. This program, which was all the activities marking the establishment of the AI Collective. Of course, you know that the AI Collective is a community of practitioners, particularly for stakeholders, experts, and those in the information sector, that is members of NCDMB. And as well as some of these innovators, what is currently ongoing is an array where curated innovations from some of these curators are being shown to the public, particularly journalists, to show them better ways of reporting, better ways of gathering stories, better ways of fact-checking, and better ways of verifying documents. Earlier on, a solutions provider actually took our journalists to a new application where one could use AI to verify push documents, deepfakes, and the like. So this is what we are seeing currently. And more conversations are ongoing, particularly concerning the sustainable and inclusive use of AI in Nigeria as we speak. Blessings.
All right, thank you so much for the update, Joshua Marai, on the Media and AI Summit going on right now. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, says that the FCT administration will henceforth clamp down on improper disposal of waste and refuse within the capital. Wike made this known earlier today while meeting with contractors saddled with the evacuation of refuse and waste from the city centre and adjoining satellite communities, urging them to meet up with their key responsibilities. He says that a task force has been set up to monitor refuse disposal by residents and ensure improper disposal is adequately sanctioned.
We must be up and doing to making sure that we have really changed the city in terms of waste management. We must work. Now that we have the opportunity to serve the country, and you have the opportunity to contribute your own quota, they see it as a government duty to come and remove those debris. So I'm forming a task force now. If I see that you did not bag your refuse, you put it on the ground in your house, I'll take it inside your own house.
As the 16 days activism against violence on women commences on Tuesday, stakeholders say part of the reasons for escalation of the menace is because perpetrators have not been served adequate punishments. Abia State government, on its part, says it won't or wants to begin prosecution of offenders whose cases are being handled by the Ministry of Women Affairs. News Central's Chinwe Ugele reports that the 2025 theme is Unite to End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls. Her report.
Often women and girls are said to be bullied by the male folk, either in the homes or larger society. Some say the reason for this situation is because the society has accepted it to be a norm.
Most of our men or women are not properly educated about the issues surrounding gender-based violence. And so most times you see them being held down by societal notions and opinions about what happens and what doesn't happen. For most men, gender-based violence is a form of correction for them, for their wives.
But the Commissioner for Women Affairs in Abia State, Dr. Maureen Arokwa, discloses government is making efforts at making those who take pride in hurting females pay for their actions.
But we still have some that we want to use as examples from tomorrow. That's what this year's 16 days of activism is all about. We want to prosecute people and show people that they cannot just go against the law.
Some women suffer various magnitude of digital abuse relating to body shaming, name tags, and vilification. Hence the 2025 theme to address online bullying.
Everybody lives online now. Virtually every day of our lives, we are there. And so there are a lot of bullying, there are a lot of issues that we say happen online. But the truth of the matter is that it lives with you through your life. The trauma happens offline. The social isolation happens offline. The stigmatization happens offline. And so we want to begin to educate people about the issues around cyberbullying.
Annie Ono, a girl child advocate and the head of the Diaspora Commission in Abia State, wants women to reject all forms of abuse.
Violence is in different areas. There's spiritual, there is emotional, there is a mental state of it, and sometimes people play down on those kind of things. But it happens. If you know that violence is not tolerated, and don't go where you are not celebrated.
The lead person of Protect the Precious Foundation, Nora Okafor, notes it would have been easier to understand the degree of violence against women with data if such were available in the state. To check violence against women, families, civil society groups, the government and opinion molders must support getting justice for the victims at all times. In Omahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Let's talk business now. Africa's economic debate is evolving. And at this year's Idan Youth Scholars Workshop in Dakar, students and researchers from across the continent are challenging long-held views on money, finance, and development. Over 3 days, they examined how credit policy, monetary sovereignty, and regional integration shape Africa's future in a shifting global economy. News Central's business correspondent, Juliet Rowland, is there and brings this report.
Year's Idan Young Scholars Workshop in Dakar, Senegal, opened with a sharp look at Africa's financial architecture and the limits of mainstream economic thinking.
Yeah, indeed, macroeconomics has been broken for quite a long while. In fact, what Professor Friedman says is 50 years. It's actually slightly more than 50 years. So we've been living as countries in a setup where what we're doing was not based on real science. It was based on a poor understanding of how economies work, and mostly how banks work and how money works. And since then, it's until the crisis that happened in 2008 that we began to wake up to say, but hold on a second. What are the reactions of our reserve banks? What are the reactions of governments? Oh, maybe the economy works in this fashion. And indeed in this fashion, not in the fashion that we've been thinking.
Attention then turned to regional integration in West Africa. Discussions highlighted both the progress and persistent gaps within ECOWAS, especially on political alignments and economic cohesion. The young scholars rounded off the event by sharing how the workshop challenged their assumptions and reshaped their understanding of effective policymaking.
I know ECOWAS has done well on maybe peace and security. I don't think ECOWAS has done very well on economic integration. So that if you think about the question of how much trade is happening between the countries, ECOWAS states, I think that's an interesting one to focus on. I think that when you look at it, you probably find that it isn't as much as one would like. So, and what are the reasons? The reasons will have to do with things like non-tariff barriers to trade. So there will be things that need to be unpacked about it. So I think we have a long journey and we have a long way to go in terms of making integration a project that's actually about uniting.
Still to come, Russian President Zelensky welcomes peace plan, says Kyiv open to deeper talks. We'll bring you the details after the break. And to stories outside of Nigeria. In Guinea-Bissau's presidential election held on Sunday, both the sitting president, Umar Musa, and his main challenger, Fernando Diaz, have declared themselves winners even before the official results were released. Diaz, backed by the outlawed former ruling party African Party of the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, told supporters in the capital Bissau that this election was won in the first round. Hours later, Embalo's camp insisted their candidate had secured over 50% of the vote and avoided a runoff, announcing there will be no second round. Observers say the conflicting claims risk fueling political tensions in the West African nation, which has suffered multiple coups since independence. For now, many Guinea-Bissau citizens remain uncertain who their next president will be, while waiting for formal confirmation. The government of Kai's side on Wednesday summoned European Union's ambassador Giuseppe Peroni to protest what he called a breach of diplomatic protocol. The move comes after the ambassador met with the Tunisian General Labour Union leader Noureddine Taboubi. During the meeting, Peroni reportedly praised the UGTT's role, particularly its participation in the 2015 Nobel Peace Prize winning National Dialogue Quartet, and expressed support for EU cooperation with Tunisian civil society. But Tunisian authorities see this as overstepping. In their statement, they criticized the ambassador for using practices outside of official frameworks, suggesting he bypassed the formal diplomatic channels and protocols that govern interactions between foreign envoys and national institutions. For now, neither the EU nor its delegation in Tunis has issued a public response to the summons. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that his envoy Steve Witkoff will travel to Moscow next week for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, with the aim to push for a proposed deal to end the war in Ukraine. The move comes after Witkoff consulted with a senior Kremlin official in a peace plan that could include major compromises from Ukraine, a proposal that some view as heavily favoring Russia. And while Trump says the deal is close, critics, including officials in Kyiv and European capitals, warn that forcing Ukraine to give up territory could undermine any real chance for lasting peace. For now, if Putin and Witkoff agree on a consensus, it might open the door to negotiations involving Ukraine and other global powers. But if the talks collapse or if the peace plan seems unfair, it could renew hostilities and deepen international mistrust.
They're talking to Russia now. Steve Witkoff is going over, maybe with Jared. I'm not sure about Jared going, but he's involved in the process, smart guy, and they're going to be meeting with President Putin, I believe, next week in Moscow.
Have you heard this audio that Bloomberg has?
Now, Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, said on Tuesday that the principle of the recently revised U.S. draft proposal to end the war with Russia could form the basis for deeper agreements, but stressed that much depends on Washington. Zelensky acknowledged that while Ukraine is ready to move forward with the plan's framework, it still has sensitive points that need addressing. He said Kyiv had its own framework developed in Geneva, which remains on the table. He further called for strong cooperation, not just with the United States, specifically naming Donald Trump, but also with European allies, arguing that security decisions about Europe must include Europe. Zelensky also warned that Russia's recent attacks on Ukrainian cities carried out while diplomacy is underway are especially cynical, showing that Moscow continues its aggression even as peace talks proceed. And now, global affairs analyst Ejike Okpa joins me live to share his thoughts on this. Ejike, Trump is sending his envoy, Steve Witkoff, to Moscow to have peace talks. What does this move say about the direction that the U.S. involvement in the peace process might be heading?
Thank you for having me. I mean, U.S. has always, put itself in a position to bring peace to this conflict, and this was started in the last administration of Biden, and Trump, during his campaign, indicated that he's going to do all he can to bring an end to it, and that's what he's doing. He's met with Zelensky many times. He's met with Putin in Alaska, and everybody thought that was the end of it. But we all have to be patient and understand that this sort of something takes time. You're talking to countries that have sovereign rights and their presidents that have to assert their own position and the ego. There's a lot of ego in this stuff, so it's not a case where tell somebody this is what you do, and if you don't do it, I do that. So what we see is this, pendulum swing, going back and forth until the pendulum stops, and that stop, we're hoping is going to be where the agreement is reached and the parties to the conflict, are comfortable with the agreement. They started with a 28-point agenda, and now it's down to 19. Whether it's going to go up to 28 or more or less, we don't know. But with the envoy and the Secretary of State and everybody in between playing their role, we are hoping that in no distant future that this is going to come to an end. The Europeans are tired of it. Since the end of the World War, Second World War, this is the most conflict Europe has had. And as you are aware of, European wars always become a global issue. I don't know why that is, but it's because, the Western Europeans and the Americans are still the ones that exert a lot of pressure in the world. So when things go wrong in their part of the world, everybody's attention is drawn to it. So we're hoping that Trump influence, using his biggest microphone in the world as a president, is going to make something happen during this time. But the key word in what you were saying is if. So it's all conditional. We don't know what's going to happen until it happens.
Well, still talking about the ifs now, there's growing concern that the proposed peace plan could force Ukraine into making big concessions. How risky would you say that this is for the U.S. to back a deal that some say may lean heavily in Russia's favor?
When you get into it, then it becomes, what are you willing to give up in order for you to get peace? And so Russia's got to give up something, and Ukraine has got to give up something. It's a case of opportunity cost. At the end of this, the two parties to the conflict, obviously one has a much bigger power to, afflict injury on the other side. So it's going to come, can Ukraine be in this war without the support of outsiders? Is the question, and everybody knows that Ukraine cannot sustain this war except NATO and the US and everybody else comes in to give them something. But at the end of the day, we all have to recognize that people are dying, and those people that are dying are not animals; they are human beings, and properties are being destroyed. We can go back and rebuild what is physically destroyed, but lives that are lost cannot be replaced. And then people who are wounded in the war are going to carry those injury of physical injury as well as emotional one as long as they live, and that's going to extend by default to family members. So it makes sense that Ukraine comes in, hey, if it's a piece of land, let it go. It don't have to be people are cheering from the side, don't let it go, don't let it go. At the end of the day, they're not going to come over there, wear uniform and join you and go get shot at or get killed.
All right.
So
okay, apologies for interrupting you, but I want to appreciate you, Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa, for joining us to discuss this very important conversation.
Well, thank you.
The release of the 38 Christ Apostolic Church members in Kwara and the students in Kebbi has sparked a major national audit of trust. These worshippers were abducted during a midweek service, with the kidnappers initially demanding 100 million naira per person and later slashing it to 20 million naira. And you remember the students who were also kidnapped? Then suddenly, after days of silence, the government announced that all victims had been freed. No ransom was admitted, no bandit was killed, no arrest was recorded. And the operation was labeled a joint rescue, which involved, of course, the DSS, the military, the police, and local vigilantes. But Nigerians aren't buying the glossy press release. Now, the narrative doesn't add up. Security analysts and community leaders say the camp was located 12 kilometers inside the forest, yet there was no confrontation, no firefight, no pursuit, no fallout. Experts are openly questioning whether a ransom was quietly paid behind the scenes, a move that, if true, could bankroll future kidnappings. Now, across social media, the comment section is on fire. People are relieved that the victims are back home, but everyone is asking the same question. How were they released? What exactly did the government negotiate? What leverage did security forces have that magically convinced terrorists to hand over 38 hostages without cash, without force, and without any demands being met? And don't forget, there's also a video circulating online, allegedly that these terrorists are asking those who they kidnapped how many helicopters were hovering around. So they say that the security forces could not get them by force, so they negotiated. As other families in Niger, Kaduna, Kebbi continue to wait for their abducted children, the public wants clarity, because whatever strategy freed the Kwara worshippers and the school children, Nigerians expect it to be applied everywhere else. Right now, the government is celebrating a win, but the country is demanding receipts. That's your postscript. Now, before we go, let's take a look at what's happening in the sporting world. The wait is finally over. The Nigeria Women Football League 2025-2026 season kicks off today. And Onyechi Obaro is here with all the key storylines to watch. Onyechi, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am indeed, Blessings. We have 9 matches across Nigeria, and the Gladiators will be on today. Bayelsa Queens will take on Edo Queens. Big guns will be going up in the first day of the opener. And we've got some debutants. Pace setters, they'll be looking at making their debut at the NWFL season. So these are many more we get to unpack on the show today at 1 p.m. in game.
All right, there you have it. That's all on the 12 report. Stay tuned on In the Games. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen because we want to see what you see. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, GoTV, channel 23, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masugu.